When Michael Jordan opened that cream-colored envelope on a rainy Tuesday morning, he never imagined his entire world was about to change forever. The handwriting made his hands shake. It was from Larissa, the woman he hadn't heard from in 20 years. Her letter said only 3 things. Something happened. I need to see you. Please come. What could make his college girlfriend break 2 decades of silence? Michael had no idea that in just days, he would discover a secret so shocking it would bring him to his knees. A secret about a son he never knew existed. A young man fighting for his life, and a lie that had stolen 20 years from all of them. Michael Jordan leaned back in his leather chair and stared out the window of his Chicago office. Rain drummed against the glass, blurring the city's skyline into streaks of gray and silver. At 60 years old, he had everything a man could want. 6 championship rings sat in a display case behind his desk. His businesses were worth billions. His name was known in every corner of the world. But on this Tuesday morning, something felt different. Something he couldn't quite name. Mr. Jordan? His assistant, Patricia, knocked softly on the door. I have your morning mail. Come in, Michael said, turning from the window. Patricia entered with her usual efficient smile, carrying a stack of envelopes and packages. The usual fan mail, some business contracts that need your signature, and a few personal items. She placed everything on his desk in neat piles. Michael nodded his thanks and began sorting through the stack. Fan letters from kids asking for autographs, invitations to charity events. A contract for a new sneaker design. Nothing unusual. Then his hand stopped on a cream-colored envelope near the bottom of the pile. The handwriting made his breath catch in his throat. Curved letters, written in blue ink, spelling out his name with a familiarity that reached across decades. He knew that handwriting. He'd seen it on notes slipped into his textbooks, on birthday cards, on little messages left on his dorm room door. His hands trembled slightly as he turned the envelope over. The return address confirmed what his heart already knew. Larissa Bennett, 847 Maple Ridge Lane, Asheville, North Carolina. Larissa. The name hit him like a punch to the chest. They'd met at the University of North Carolina when Michael was just another talented basketball player with big dreams. Larissa was studying art history, always covered in paint from her studio classes. She had wild, dark hair that never stayed in its ponytail and a laugh that could fill an entire room. She made him feel like more than just a basketball player. When he was with her, he was just Michael, not a future star, not someone with expectations crushing down on him. Just a young man falling in love for the first time. They dated for 2 years. 2 incredible years of late-night talks, stolen kisses between classes, and dreams about the future. She came to every game, cheering louder than anyone else in the stands. She believed in him before the world knew his name. Then came the NBA draft. His career exploded overnight. Suddenly, he was traveling constantly, surrounded by agents and managers and lawyers. The distance between them grew wider with each passing week. Phone calls became shorter, visits became impossible. Eventually, they just stopped. Michael told himself it was for the best. He was building something huge, something that required total focus. There was no room in his life for a college girlfriend who wanted a normal future. But sometimes, late at night, he still thought about her. Wondered where she was. Wondered if she ever thought about him too. He hadn't heard from Larissa in 20 years. Not a word. Not a letter. Nothing. Until now. Michael's fingers shook as he opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of cream-colored paper, folded once. He unfolded it and began to read. Michael, I know it's been 20 years. I never thought I'd reach out to you again. I promised myself I wouldn't. But something has happened. Something important. Something that changes everything. I need to see you. I know you're busy. I know you probably don't want to hear from me after all this time. But please, Michael, please come to Asheville. The address is on the envelope. I'll understand if you can't come. I'll understand if you're angry that I'm contacting you after so long. But I'm hoping you remember what we once meant to each other. I'm hoping you'll remember that I never asked you for anything. I'm asking now. Please come. Larissa. Michael read the letter 3 times, his mind racing. What could have happened? Was she sick? Did she need money? Why now, after 2 decades of silence? The letter gave him no answers. No phone number to call, no email address, just a physical address in the mountains of North Carolina and a plea to come. He stood up and walked to the window again, the letter clutched in his hand. Rain continued to fall on Chicago, washing the city clean. Somewhere in North Carolina, Larissa was waiting for his answer. Michael picked up his phone and dialed his pilot. "Prepare the jet," he said, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside him. "We're going to North Carolina." Whatever Larissa needed to tell him, whatever had happened to break 20 years of silence, he had to know. Some questions couldn't be left unanswered. Some doors, once opened, couldn't be closed again. He was about to discover that some secrets can't stay buried forever, and that his life was about to change in ways he never imagined possible. The next morning, Michael drove a rental car through the winding mountain roads of North Carolina. He'd insisted on driving himself. No bodyguards, no assistants, no cameras. Whatever Larissa needed to tell him felt too private for witnesses. The October sun painted the Blue Ridge Mountains in shades of gold and crimson. Leaves drifted across the highway like confetti. Michael gripped the steering wheel tighter, his mind spinning with possibilities. What could be so urgent? 20 years of silence broken by a single letter. It had to be serious. His GPS directed him off the main highway onto smaller roads that curved through tunnels of autumn trees. The houses here were modest, nothing like the mansions Michael had grown accustomed to. These were real homes where real families lived real lives. "In 500 feet, your destination will be on the right," the GPS announced. Michael's heart hammered in his chest. He slowed the car, scanning the mailboxes for number 847. There it was. A small blue house with white shutters and a neat front garden. Chrysanthemums bloomed in shades of orange and yellow. An old tire swing hung from a massive oak tree in the yard, swaying gently in the breeze. Michael parked on the street and turned off the engine. For a long moment, he just sat there, staring at the house. This was where Larissa lived. This was her home. He'd imagined her life so many times over the years. Sometimes he pictured her married to some nice guy, teaching art at a local college. Sometimes he imagined her in a gallery somewhere, her paintings hanging on white walls. Sometimes he wondered if she thought about him at all. Now he was about to find out. Michael took a deep breath and got out of the car. His legs felt unsteady as he walked up the stone pathway to the front porch. Before he could knock, the door opened, and there she was. Larissa Bennett stood in the doorway, and Michael forgot how to breathe. 20 years had changed her, but not in the ways he expected. Her dark hair was streaked with silver now, pulled back in a messy bun. Fine lines creased the corners of her eyes and mouth. Smile lines, he realized. She wore faded jeans and a soft green cardigan that brought out the warmth in her brown eyes. Those eyes. They were exactly the same as he remembered. Warm and deep and full of emotion. "Michael," she said softly. Her voice cracked on his name. "You came." "Your letter said it was important," Michael replied. His voice sounded strange to his own ears, tight and uncertain. Larissa wrapped her arms around herself, as if holding herself together. "It is, but first I need you to understand something. What I'm about to show you, what I'm about to tell you, it's going to change everything you thought you knew." Michael climbed the porch steps slowly. "Larissa, what's going on? Are you sick? Are you in trouble?" "I'm fine," she said quickly, but tears were gathering in her eyes. "I'm healthy. I'm okay. This isn't about me." She pressed her hand to her mouth, struggling for control. "God, I've rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, and I still don't know how to say it." "Just say it," Michael urged gently. "Whatever it is, just tell me." Larissa looked up at him, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm so sorry, Michael. I'm sorry for all of it. I'm sorry for the choices I made. I'm sorry for the time we lost. But you need to know the truth. You deserved to know 20 years ago. But I was young and scared and stupid. Michael's chest tightened with fear. The truth about what? Larissa opened the door wider, stepping aside. Come inside, she whispered. Please. There's someone you need to know about. Michael stepped across the threshold, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. The house smelled like coffee and cinnamon. Soft jazz played from somewhere deeper inside. But what caught Michael's attention were the photographs. They covered every surface: the mantel above the fireplace, the bookshelf by the window, the small table in the entryway. Photographs of Larissa at different ages. Photographs of people Michael didn't recognize, probably her family. And photographs of a young man. Michael moved closer to the mantel, drawn by something he couldn't name. He picked up a frame and stared at the image inside. A teenage boy in a basketball uniform, holding a trophy high above his head. He was grinning at the camera with pure joy, his whole face lit up with victory. The boy was tall and lean, with an athlete's build. He had Larissa's warm brown eyes and her smile. But everything else, the shape of his face, the line of his jaw, the way he held himself with quiet confidence. Michael's hand began to shake. It was like looking at a photograph of himself at that age. Larissa, Michael said, his voice barely above a whisper. Who is this? Behind him, Larissa's voice broke with emotion. His name is Marcus Bennett. She paused, and Michael heard her take a shaky breath. Michael, he's your son. The photograph slipped from Michael's fingers. It would have crashed to the floor if Larissa hadn't caught it. But Michael didn't notice. He couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't process what he'd just heard. What? The word came out like a gasp. He's your son, Larissa repeated, tears streaming down her face now. Our son? Remember our last night together before you left for the draft? Michael remembered. Of course he remembered. They'd stayed up all night, holding each other, neither wanting to admit it might be goodbye. They'd talked about the future, made promises they were too young to keep. 2 weeks after you left, Larissa continued, her voice shaking, I found out I was pregnant. I tried to call you, Michael. I called your agent's office every day for a month, but they said you couldn't be disturbed. They said you were focused on your career. They said, her voice broke completely. They said you didn't want to hear from me. Michael turned to face her, his whole body numb with shock. I have a son? Yes. For 20 years I've had a son and you didn't tell me? I tried, Larissa cried. I swear to God I tried, but the wall around you got higher and higher, and then I saw your life on TV, the fame, the pressure, the cameras following you everywhere. And I thought… She wiped her eyes roughly. I thought maybe Marcus would be better off without all that. I told myself I was protecting him, but really, I was just scared. Michael's mind reeled. A son. He had a son. Somewhere in this house or out in the world, there was a young man who carried half of Michael's DNA. A person he'd never met, never held, never knew existed. Where is he? Michael demanded. Where is Marcus? Larissa's face crumbled. She sank onto the couch as if her legs couldn't hold her anymore. That's why I wrote to you. That's why I finally broke my silence after all these years. Fear shot through Michael like electricity. What happened to him? Larissa, where is my son? He's at Duke University Hospital, Larissa whispered. He's been there for 3 weeks. Michael's blood ran cold. Why? What's wrong? Larissa looked up at him with eyes full of grief and desperation. Michael, he has leukemia, and he needs a bone marrow transplant to survive. The words hit Michael like a physical blow. His knees buckled, and he grabbed the back of a chair to steady himself. Leukemia? His voice came out hoarse and broken. My son has cancer? Larissa nodded, unable to speak through her tears. She pulled a tissue from her pocket and pressed it to her face. Michael's mind spun in 1,000 directions at once. He had a son he'd never met, a son who was dying. 20 years of life he'd missed, and now time was running out before he'd even had a chance to know this boy existed. Tell me everything, Michael said, moving to sit across from Larissa. Start from the beginning. I need to understand. Larissa took a shaky breath and began. Marcus was born on March 15, 1986, 9 months and 2 weeks after you left for the NBA draft. He was 7 pounds, 3 ounces. He had a full head of dark hair and the loudest cry the nurses had ever heard. A sad smile crossed her face. He was perfect, Michael. Absolutely perfect. Michael closed his eyes, trying to picture it, trying to imagine Larissa in a hospital bed, holding their newborn son, alone, without him there. I raised him by myself, Larissa continued. My parents helped when they could, but they'd already retired and moved to Florida. So it was mostly just me and Marcus. I worked 2 jobs, teaching art classes during the day and waitressing at night. We didn't have much, but we had each other. She stood and walked to a bookshelf, pulling down a photo album. She handed it to Michael with trembling hands. Michael opened it and felt his heart shatter. The first page showed a tiny baby wrapped in a blue blanket, sleeping peacefully. Michael traced the image with his finger, memorizing every detail of his son's infant face. He turned the page. Marcus as a toddler, covered in spaghetti sauce, laughing at the camera. Marcus on his first day of kindergarten, missing his 2 front teeth. Marcus holding his first basketball, which was almost as big as he was. Page after page of moments Michael should have been there for. First steps, first words, first everything. He asked about you, Larissa said quietly. When he was little, he'd see other kids with their dads and ask where his was. I told him you were busy, that you had an important job far away. I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth, that you didn't know he existed. Michael looked up from the album. What changed? Why tell him now? The leukemia, Larissa said simply. 3 months ago, Marcus started feeling tired all the time. We thought it was just stress from college. He's studying sports medicine at UNC. Our school, Michael interrupted softly. Yes, our school. Larissa smiled through her tears. He wanted to go there because that's where we met. I told him stories about those days, happy stories about 2 kids who fell in love before life got complicated. She sat back down and continued. But the fatigue got worse. He started bruising easily, getting sick all the time. Finally, his roommate dragged him to the campus health center. They ran tests and found abnormal white blood cells. More tests at Duke confirmed it. Acute myeloid leukemia. Michael felt like he was drowning. What's his prognosis? Without a transplant, not good, Larissa said bluntly. The doctors tried chemotherapy, but the cancer is aggressive. His best chance is a bone marrow transplant from a close relative. I got tested immediately, but I'm not a match. We tested my siblings, my cousins. Nobody matched well enough. So you need me, Michael said, understanding flooding through him. His best chance is a biological parent, Larissa confirmed. And since I'm not a match, that leaves you, if you're willing, if you're a match. She looked at him with desperate hope. Michael, I know I have no right to ask anything of you. I kept him from you. I stole 20 years that you should have had with your son. But he's running out of time and I don't know what else to do. Michael stood abruptly and walked to the mantel again. He picked up another photograph. Marcus in his high school graduation gown, diploma in hand, looking proud and happy. Does he know? Michael asked. Does Marcus know I'm his father? Yes, Larissa said. I told him when he got sick. He had a right to know before. She couldn't finish the sentence. How did he take it? He was angry at first, angry at me for keeping it secret. But Michael, he's never asked for anything from you. He doesn't expect money or fame or anything. He just wants to live. He wants a chance at a future. Michael turned to face her, and his expression was fierce with determination. Where is Duke Hospital? Durham, about 2 hours from here. I want to see him, Michael said. Right now, today. Take me to my son. Larissa stood quickly. Are you sure? He doesn't know I contacted you. He might not be ready. I don't care if he's ready, Michael interrupted. I've missed 20 years. I'm not missing another second. Get your coat. We're leaving now. Larissa grabbed her purse and keys with shaking hands. As they headed for the door, Michael stopped and looked back at the photographs covering the walls. His son's face smiled back at him from a dozen different moments. Birthday parties, basketball games, family gatherings. A whole life lived without him. Larissa, Michael said quietly, I'm angry. I'm angrier than I've ever been in my life. You took something from me that I can never get back." She nodded, tears flowing freely again. "I know. I'm sorry. But right now," Michael continued, "my son is sick, and he needs help. So we're going to put aside everything else, all the anger, all the blame, all the what-ifs. Right now, the only thing that matters is Marcus. Agreed?" "Agreed," Larissa whispered. They walked to Michael's rental car in silence. As Michael started the engine, his hands were steady on the wheel despite the storm of emotions raging inside him. He had a son named Marcus Bennett who played basketball, studied sports medicine, and was fighting for his life in a hospital 2 hours away. Michael had faced impossible odds before. He'd made last-second shots with championships on the line. He'd overcome injuries that should have ended his career. He'd built an empire from nothing but talent and determination. But nothing in his life had prepared him for this moment. Nothing had prepared him to be a father. As they pulled onto the highway heading toward Durham, Michael made a silent promise. Whatever it took, whatever the cost, he would save his son's life. And then, somehow, he would figure out how to be the father Marcus deserved, even if he was 20 years too late. The highway stretched ahead like a gray ribbon through the mountains. Michael drove in silence, his jaw clenched tight, his mind racing faster than the car. Larissa sat in the passenger seat, her hands folded in her lap. She stared out the window at the passing trees, saying nothing. The silence between them was heavy with 20 years of unspoken words. Finally, Michael broke it. "What does he like?" The question burst from him suddenly. "Marcus. What does he like to do? What makes him laugh? What's his favorite food?" Larissa turned to look at him, surprised by the urgency in his voice. "If I only have hours or days with him," Michael continued, his voice tight with emotion, "I want to know everything. I want to know who he is." Larissa's face softened. She wiped her eyes and took a breath. "He loves basketball, of course. He played varsity all 4 years of high school. Point guard, like you. He made all-conference his junior and senior years." "Was he good?" Michael asked. "Really good," Larissa said, and pride filled her voice. "Not NBA good, but good enough that he could have played at a smaller college if he wanted. But he chose sports medicine instead. He wanted to help athletes, not be one." Michael felt a pang of loss so sharp it hurt to breathe. He should have been there. He should have seen those games, cheered from the stands, offered advice about defense and ball handling. "What else?" he pressed. "He's smart," Larissa continued. "Really smart. He got a full academic scholarship to UNC. He made Dean's List every semester. He wants to work with professional teams someday, maybe even the NBA." She paused. "He's always been fascinated by your career, even before he knew you were his father." Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "He loves old movies," Larissa went on. "Comedies especially. He can quote every line from Airplane and The Princess Bride. He does terrible impressions that make everyone laugh anyway." Her voice cracked with emotion. "He volunteers at the animal shelter every Saturday. Or he did, before he got sick. He's adopted 3 stray cats over the years. Named them Jordan, Pippin, and Rodman." Despite everything, Michael almost smiled. "He named a cat after me?" "He didn't know then," Larissa said softly. "He just loved the Bulls. Loved watching you play. He'd record your games and study them like textbooks. He learned basketball by watching you, Michael. You were his hero before you were his father." The words hit Michael hard. His son had grown up idolizing him from a distance, never knowing they shared the same blood. "He tips waiters too much because he knows how hard they work," Larissa continued. "He calls me every Sunday, even when he's busy with school. He remembers everyone's birthday. He makes friends easily. He's kind, Michael. He's the kindest person I know. And he's funny and brave and—" Her voice broke completely. "And he's dying. And I can't save him." She covered her face with her hands and sobbed. Michael wanted to comfort her, but he couldn't. His own grief was too raw, too new. He could barely process it himself. They drove in silence for another 20 minutes. Michael's mind painted pictures of a boy he'd never met. Marcus playing basketball in high school gyms. Marcus studying late into the night. Marcus laughing at old comedies. Marcus lying in a hospital bed fighting for his life. "Does he hate me?" Michael asked quietly. Larissa looked at him sharply. "What?" "Marcus, does he hate me for not being there? For missing everything?" "No," Larissa said firmly. "I told him the truth, that I never gave you the chance to be there, that I kept him from you, not the other way around. He was angry at me, not you." "You protected me," Michael said bitterly. "I told him the truth," Larissa repeated. "Michael, whatever anger you have toward me, I deserve it. But Marcus doesn't blame you. He's not that kind of person. He doesn't waste energy on blame." They passed a sign that read, "Durham, 45 miles." Michael's heart began to race. In less than an hour, he would meet his son for the first time. His 20-year-old son who was fighting cancer. What do you say in a moment like that? How do you compress 2 decades of missed life into a single conversation? "What should I say to him?" Michael asked. Larissa was quiet for a moment. "Just be honest. Marcus values honesty above everything else. Tell him the truth, that you didn't know, that you wish you had been there, that you're here now." "What if he doesn't want to see me?" Michael's voice cracked. "What if he's too sick? What if—" "Michael," Larissa interrupted gently, "he wants to meet you. When I told him about you, do you know what he said? He said, 'I always wondered what it would be like to have a dad.' Even sick, even scared, he wants to know you." Michael swallowed hard against the lump in his throat. They entered Durham as the afternoon sun began to sink toward the horizon. The city sprawled around them. Shopping centers, restaurants, neighborhoods. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that Michael Jordan's world was falling apart. Larissa directed him through the streets to Duke University Hospital. The massive medical complex rose before them like a small city within the city. Michael parked in the visitor's lot, his hands shaking as he turned off the engine. For a long moment, neither of them moved. "I'm scared," Michael admitted quietly. It was something he rarely said out loud. Michael Jordan wasn't supposed to be scared. He was supposed to be confident, unstoppable, always in control. But right now, he was terrified. "Me too," Larissa whispered. "Every single day." They got out of the car and walked toward the main entrance. The automatic doors slid open, and they stepped into the cool, antiseptic smell of the hospital. People rushed past them, doctors in white coats, nurses in scrubs, families clutching flowers and balloons. Michael had been in plenty of hospitals before, for injuries, for surgeries, visiting sick friends. But he'd never walked into one knowing his child was inside, fighting for his life. They took the elevator to the 8th floor, oncology. The walls were painted in soft colors meant to be calming. Inspirational quotes hung in frames. "Hope," one read. "Courage," said another. Michael wanted to rip them all down. What good were pretty words when kids were dying? At the nurse's station, a kind-faced woman looked up and did a double-take when she saw Michael. Her mouth opened in surprise, but Larissa's expression stopped her from saying anything. "We're here to see Marcus Bennett," Larissa said. "Room 847. The nurse nodded, her professionalism taking over. "Of course, Ms. Bennett. He had a good morning. He's awake and alert." They walked down the hallway, passing room after room. Through some of the open doors, Michael glimpsed patients, young and old, some with visitors, some alone, each one fighting their own battle. They stopped outside room 847. Through the small window in the door, Michael could see a figure in the bed. His heart hammered so hard he thought it might burst from his chest. "Ready?" Larissa asked softly. Michael took a deep breath. No, he wasn't ready. How could anyone be ready for this? But ready or not, his son was on the other side of that door. And Michael Jordan had never walked away from a challenge in his life. "Let's go," he said. Larissa knocked softly and pushed the door open. Michael stepped into the room, and his world changed forever. The young man in the hospital bed looked up from the television, and Michael's heart stopped completely. It was like looking into a mirror that showed the past. Marcus was thinner than in the photographs, his skin pale from illness and treatment. He'd lost his hair to chemotherapy, But the shape of his face, the set of his shoulders, the way his eyes studied Michael with careful intelligence. It was all hauntingly familiar. This was his son. "Hey, Mom," Marcus said, his voice raspy but warm. Then his gaze shifted to Michael, and something flickered across his face. Recognition. Wonder. Fear. His eyes widened. "Oh, Marcus," Larissa said, moving quickly to his bedside and taking his hand. "This is—" "I know who he is," Marcus interrupted gently. His eyes never left Michael's face. "I mean, obviously. You're Michael Jordan." Michael's throat felt tight. He forced himself to speak. "I'm your father." The words hung in the air between them. On the television, a basketball game played with the sound muted. Ironically, a replay of one of Michael's championship games from the 90s. Marcus looked between Michael and Larissa, his expression unreadable. "Mom told me. I know it wasn't your fault. I know you didn't know about me." An awkward silence filled the room. Michael felt frozen, uncertain. He'd faced screaming crowds, hostile opponents, crushing pressure. But standing in front of his sick son for the first time, he had no idea what to do. "That was a good game," Michael said finally, gesturing at the television. His voice came out strained. "We were down by 15 at halftime." Marcus's face relaxed slightly, and the tiniest smile touched his lips. "I know. You came back and won by 8. I've watched it maybe 100 times." "You like basketball?" Michael asked. Then immediately felt stupid. Of course he liked basketball. The photos showed him in uniform. Larissa had told him everything on the drive. "I love it," Marcus said. His voice was stronger now, more engaged. "Played all through high school, point guard. I was pretty good, actually." He paused, and vulnerability crept into his expression. Not Jordan good, but good enough to make varsity as a freshman. The confession broke something inside Michael. He crossed the room in 3 quick steps and dropped into the chair beside Marcus's bed. "I would have been there," he said fiercely. "Every single game, every practice, every moment. Marcus, if I had known you existed—" "I know," Marcus interrupted, and tears gathered in his eyes. "Mom explained everything. She told me how she tried to reach you, how the people around you blocked her out. And honestly," he took a shaky breath, "I get it. You were just starting your career. You were young. Things were complicated. That's not an excuse," Michael insisted. "Maybe not," Marcus agreed, "but it's reality. And we can't change the past, right?" His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "We can only deal with what's in front of us." Larissa wiped her eyes, looking between them. Marcus has always been wise beyond his years. Michael studied his son's face, the face he should have known since birth. He saw himself in Marcus's features, but he also saw Larissa. The combination was striking. "Your mother told me about the leukemia," Michael said, leaning forward. "About the bone marrow transplant you need. I'm here to get tested, today, right now." Marcus's eyes widened. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do," Michael cut him off firmly. "You're my son. That's not negotiable, and it's not up for debate. I've missed 20 years of your life, and I'll regret that every day for the rest of mine. But I'm not missing this. I'm not losing you before I even get a chance to know you." "What if you're not a match?" Marcus asked quietly. Fear flickered across his face. Real, raw fear. Michael's jaw set with determination. "Then we find another way. I have resources. I have connections. We'll test everyone. We'll search every database. We'll do whatever it takes. But I'm not giving up on you, Marcus. Not now. Not ever." Marcus stared at him for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. The guardedness faded, replaced by cautious hope. "You really mean that?" "Every word," Michael promised. A knock on the door interrupted them. A tall woman in a white coat entered, carrying a tablet. She had kind eyes and an air of calm authority. "Ms. Bennett," she said to Larissa, then did a double-take when she saw Michael. She recovered quickly, her professionalism taking over. "And you must be Mr. Jordan. I'm Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, Marcus's oncologist." "Doctor," Michael said, standing to shake her hand. "I'm here to be tested as a potential donor." Dr. Okonkwo nodded approvingly. "That's excellent. The sooner we can test you, the better. Time is a factor with acute myeloid leukemia." She looked at Marcus. "How are you feeling today, Marcus?" "Tired," Marcus admitted, "but better now." He glanced at Michael and a small smile crossed his face. "I can imagine," Dr. Okonkwo said warmly. "This is quite a day." She turned back to Michael. "Let me explain what we're looking for in a bone marrow match. We test for something called HLA typing, human leukocyte antigens. These are proteins on the surface of cells. The closer the match between donor and recipient, the better the chance of a successful transplant." "What are the odds?" Michael asked. "For a parent-child match?" "Better than most," Dr. Okonkwo said. "Siblings have about a 25% chance of being a perfect match. Parents typically have about a 50% chance of being at least a partial match that could work. Sometimes we get lucky with a perfect match, but even a partial match from a parent can be very successful." "When can we test?" Michael asked. "Right now, if you're ready. I'll have a nurse draw blood, and we'll run the HLA typing. We should have preliminary results within 48 hours. If you're a potential match, we'll do more detailed testing." "Do it," Michael said without hesitation. Dr. Okonkwo smiled. "I'll send someone in shortly. In the meantime, I'll give you all some time together." She patted Marcus's foot gently. "You're doing great, Marcus. Stay strong." After she left, silence settled over the room again. But this time it felt different. Less awkward. More like three people trying to figure out how to be a family. "So," Marcus said, breaking the quiet. "This is weird, right? I mean, this whole situation is pretty weird." "Despite everything," Michael laughed. "Yeah, it's weird. I always wondered what I'd say if I ever met you," Marcus continued. "I had speeches prepared in my head. Cool, casual things that would make me sound mature and unfazed." He smiled wryly. "Turns out when you're actually sitting in a hospital bed with cancer, all the cool speeches go out the window." "I'm glad," Michael said honestly. "I don't want speeches. I just want to know you. The real you." Marcus's expression grew serious. "What if you don't like who I am? What if we have nothing in common except DNA?" The question was so vulnerable, so honest, that it made Michael's chest ache. "That's not possible," Michael said firmly. "You're my son. You're half of me. But more than that, your mother raised you, and she did an incredible job. I can already see that. You're brave and honest and stronger than most people twice your age. How could I not like you?" "You barely know me," Marcus pointed out. "Then let's change that," Michael said. "Starting right now. Ask me anything. Tell me anything. We've got 20 years to catch up on, and I don't want to waste another minute." Marcus studied his father's face, searching for something. Sincerity, maybe, or commitment. Whatever he found there seemed to satisfy him, because his shoulders relaxed and his smile grew genuine. "Okay," Marcus said. "But I'm warning you, I ask a lot of questions. Mom says I've been like that since I could talk." "I can handle questions," Michael assured him, "even the hard ones." Michael met his son's eyes steadily. "Especially the hard ones." A nurse entered with testing supplies, and Michael rolled up his sleeve without hesitation. As the nurse drew his blood, he kept his eyes on Marcus, silently making another promise. Whatever the test results showed, whatever happened next, he wasn't going anywhere. He'd found his son, and he wasn't losing him again. The blood test took only minutes. But waiting for results felt like forever. Michael refused to leave the hospital. He found a hotel 3 blocks away and checked in for an open-ended stay. "Cancel everything on my schedule for the next month," he told his assistant over the phone. "I don't care what it is. Cancel it." "Mr. Jordan, you have the charity gala on Thursday and the board meeting—" "Cancel it all," Michael repeated firmly. "My son needs me. Nothing else matters." He hung up before she could argue. The next morning, Michael arrived at the hospital at 7 with coffee for himself and a fruit smoothie for Marcus. The nurses had told him Marcus couldn't have caffeine because of his medications. Marcus was awake, sitting up in bed and watching morning news on the television. His face brightened when Michael walked in. "You came back," Marcus said, and there was relief in his voice. "I told you I would," Michael said, handing him the smoothie. "I'm not going anywhere." They fell into an easy routine over the next 2 days. Michael would arrive early each morning. They'd watch television together, talk about basketball, argue good-naturedly about whether current players were as good as the legends from Michael's era. "LeBron is better than Kobe," Marcus insisted one morning. "Better passer, better rebounder, more versatile." Michael made a face. "That's debatable." "No, it's not," Marcus grinned. "You just don't want to admit that someone might be better than the players from your generation." "I admit plenty," Michael protested. "I just have standards." They laughed together, and the sound filled Michael with warmth he hadn't expected. This felt natural, easy. Like they'd known each other for years instead of days. Larissa came every afternoon bringing fresh flowers and books Marcus requested. The three of them would sit together, sometimes talking, sometimes just existing in comfortable silence. On the third day, Dr. Okonkwo knocked on the door with a tablet in her hands. Michael's heart jumped into his throat. "I have your HLA typing results, Mr. Jordan," she said. The room went completely silent. Marcus sat up straighter. Larissa grabbed her son's hand. Michael stood, his whole body tense. "The HLA typing looks at multiple markers," Dr. Okonkwo explained. "We need matches at several key points. Family members have the best chance, but even then, it's not guaranteed." "Just tell us," Michael said, his voice tight. "Am I a match?" Dr. Okonkwo smiled broadly. "You're a 10 out of 10 match, Mr. Jordan. Perfect across all markers. In my 20 years practicing oncology, I've rarely seen a parent-child match this perfect." The room erupted. Larissa burst into tears, covering her face with her hands. Marcus let out a breath he'd been holding and started crying too. Michael felt his own eyes fill as relief crashed over him like a wave. "Thank you," he whispered, though he wasn't sure who he was thanking. "Thank you. There's more good news," Dr. Okonkwo continued. "Because you're such a perfect match, we can schedule the transplant relatively quickly. We'll need to run some additional health screenings on you to make sure you're physically ready to donate, but assuming everything checks out, we could do the procedure within 2 weeks." "Whatever you need," Michael said immediately. "Run every test." "I'll do whatever it takes." Dr. Okonkwo nodded. "The procedure involves extracting bone marrow from your hip bone under general anesthesia. You won't feel pain during the procedure, but recovery takes several weeks. You'll need to stay in the area for monitoring." "Not a problem," Michael said. "I'm not going anywhere." After Dr. Okonkwo left to schedule the tests, the three of them sat together in tearful silence. Finally, Marcus spoke. "I can't believe this is real," he said, his voice shaky with emotion. 3 weeks ago, I thought I was going to die. The doctors couldn't find a match. Mom was tested. All my cousins were tested. Nobody was close enough. And now..." He looked at Michael with wonder. "Now my father, Michael Jordan, is going to save my life." "Not Michael Jordan," Michael corrected gently. He moved closer and took Marcus's hand. "Just your dad. That's all I want to be. Not a celebrity or a legend. Just your dad." Marcus squeezed his hand, tears streaming down his face. "My dad is going to save my life." The words settled into Michael's heart and took root there. My dad. He'd been called many things in his 60 years. Champion, icon, businessman, legend. But dad meant more than all of them combined. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of medical tests and precious time together. Michael underwent every screening Dr. Okonkwo required. His heart was strong, his blood pressure perfect, his lungs clear. Years of taking care of his body as an athlete were paying off in an unexpected way. Between tests, Michael spent every possible moment with Marcus. He learned his son's habits and quirks. Marcus tapped his fingers when he was thinking. He closed his eyes when he laughed really hard. He got emotional during sad movies but tried to hide it. "What do you call a basketball player who misses every shot?" Marcus asked one afternoon, grinning mischievously. "I don't know," Michael played along. "What? Alley-oops, get it? Because they're all oops?" Marcus laughed at his own joke. Michael groaned dramatically. That's terrible. I've got 1,000,000 of them, Marcus promised, still grinning. Despite the terrible jokes, or maybe because of them, Michael found himself falling in love with his son. Marcus was funny and brave and kind. Even sick, even scared, he made the nurses laugh and thanked everyone who helped him. One evening, after Larissa had gone home for the night, Marcus asked the question Michael had been dreading. "What would you have done?" Marcus said quietly. "If Mom had reached you back then? If you'd known about me from the beginning?" Michael didn't hesitate. "I would have been there. Maybe not perfectly. I was young and stupid and didn't know the first thing about being a father. But I would have tried. You would have always known you were wanted. You would have always known you mattered. But your career would have adapted," Michael interrupted. "Marcus, I won't lie and say it would have been easy. The media would have been intense. The pressure would have been enormous. But you would have been worth it." He leaned forward, making sure Marcus heard every word. "You are worth it. You are worth everything." Marcus nodded slowly, processing. His eyes were wet. "I think I believe you." "Good," Michael said, "because it's the absolute truth." That night, Michael called his other children, Jasmine, Jeffrey, and Marcus's half-siblings. The conversations were difficult. They were confused, hurt, uncertain about this brother who had suddenly appeared. "I know this is a lot to process," Michael told each of them. "It's a lot for me too. But he's your brother. He's sick. And I need to do this." Jasmine was the first to soften. "Can I meet him?" she asked. "After the transplant, when he's better. I want to meet my brother." Michael's heart swelled with pride. "I'd like that. He'd like that too." The media somehow got wind of the story 5 days before the scheduled transplant. Michael's phone exploded with calls from reporters. TMZ ran a breaking news banner: "Michael Jordan's secret son fighting for life." ESPN dedicated an entire segment to speculation about the situation. Michael ignored it all. He had his lawyer release a brief statement. "Mr. Jordan has recently learned of a family situation and is handling it privately. He requests respect for everyone's privacy during this sensitive time." It didn't stop the frenzy, but it slowed it down. In Marcus's room that evening, they watched the news coverage together. Marcus looked overwhelmed by the attention. "I'm sorry," Michael said. "This is the part of my life I wish I could protect you from." "It's okay," Marcus said, though his voice wavered. "I knew who you were. I knew it would be complicated." He paused. "Do you think people will say I'm just after your money? That this is all fake?" "Some will," Michael admitted honestly. "People always assume the worst. But the people who matter, the ones who really know us, they'll understand the truth." "I don't want anything from you," Marcus said urgently. "I mean, except the bone marrow, obviously. But I'm not here for money or fame or anything like that. I just want—" "I know," Michael interrupted gently. "I've spent 2 weeks with you, Marcus. I know exactly who you are. You're not that kind of person. You're honest and genuine, and you care about people. I see that clearly." Marcus relaxed slightly. "Okay, good. I just needed you to know that." The night before the transplant, Michael couldn't sleep. He lay in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that could go wrong. The doctors had assured him the procedure was safe, that he was healthy enough, that everything would be fine. But what if it wasn't? What if something went wrong during the transplant? What if Marcus's body rejected the marrow? What if Michael had found his son just in time to lose him? At 2 in the morning, Michael gave up on sleep. He drove to the hospital through empty streets. The night nurse recognized him and let him through without questions. He stood outside Marcus's room, watching through the window as his son slept. Marcus looked so young, so vulnerable, connected to machines and IVs that kept him alive. A nurse named Nicole approached quietly. "Can't sleep either?" she asked kindly. "I keep thinking about all the time I missed," Michael admitted. "First steps, first words, first day of school. Birthday parties and Christmas mornings. I missed everything. And now that I finally have a chance to be here for something important, I'm terrified it won't work." Nicole smiled warmly. "You know what Marcus told me yesterday? He said that finding out about you, meeting you, it's made him fight harder. Before you showed up, he was tired and scared. But now he has something to fight for. He wants time with his dad. You've already given him something precious, Mr. Jordan. You've given him hope? Michael's eyes filled with tears. He's given me something too, purpose. I thought I had everything figured out, but I was missing the most important thing. Family, Nicole said softly. Family, Michael agreed. Tomorrow, they would both go into surgery. Tomorrow, part of Michael would literally become part of Marcus, working to save his son's life. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, Michael stood watch outside his son's room, a father keeping vigil. And for the first time in 20 years, he felt complete. Dawn broke over Durham, painting the hospital windows in shades of pink and gold. Michael arrived at 6 in the morning, 2 hours before his scheduled procedure. He'd faced championship games that came down to final shots, business deals worth billions, moments that defined his entire legacy. But he'd never been this nervous. Larissa was already in Marcus's room when Michael arrived. She sat beside their son's bed, holding his hand. Marcus was awake but quiet, his eyes showing the fear he was trying to hide. "Hey," Michael said softly from the doorway. "Mind if I join you?" "Please," Marcus said. His smile was genuine but shaky. They sat together as the hospital came to life around them. Nurses checked vitals, doctors reviewed charts, and the machinery of modern medicine moved forward like clockwork. Dr. Okonkwo arrived at 7:30 with her team. "Good morning, everyone. Are we ready?" "As ready as we'll ever be," Michael said, though his heart hammered against his ribs. The doctor explained the process one final time. Michael would go first. Under general anesthesia, doctors would insert a needle into his hip bone and extract bone marrow. Then the marrow would be processed and infused into Marcus through an IV, similar to a blood transfusion. The transplant itself is straightforward, Dr. Okonkwo reminded them. It's the weeks after that are critical. Marcus will need to stay isolated while his immune system rebuilds. But if everything goes well, we're looking at a full recovery. "When can I play basketball again?" Marcus asked, trying to sound casual but failing. Dr. Okonkwo smiled. "Let's focus on getting you walking around first. But eventually, yes. You should be able to return to all normal activities." 2 orderlies arrived to take Michael to the surgical floor. Before he left, Michael turned to Marcus one more time. "I'll see you soon," he said. "Be careful," Marcus told him, his voice cracking slightly. "I kind of need you around now." Michael's throat tightened with emotion. "You've got me, kid. I'm not going anywhere." He hugged Larissa briefly. Her body shook with silent tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for coming when I called." "Thank you for calling," Michael whispered back. The surgical prep area was cold and sterile. Michael changed into a hospital gown and lay on the gurney, feeling more vulnerable than he had in years. An anesthesiologist named Dr. Chen explained the procedure again, but Michael barely heard the words. His mind was 3 floors up with Marcus. "Mr. Jordan," Dr. Chen asked gently, "are you ready?" Michael took a deep breath. "Yes. Let's do this." The IV slid into his arm with a pinch. Dr. Chen administered the medication through the line. "Count backward from 10 for me. 10, 9, 8, 7. Michael's voice grew softer, slower. His last conscious thought was of Marcus's smile that morning. Then everything went dark. Michael woke slowly, swimming up through layers of thick fog. His hip throbbed with a deep, bone-deep ache, unlike anything he'd experienced playing basketball. But the pain was manageable, bearable. A recovery nurse named James checked his vital signs. "Welcome back, Mr. Jordan. The procedure went perfectly." Dr. Okonkwo got everything she needed. About a liter of healthy marrow? "Marcus?" Michael's voice came out rough and dry. "How's Marcus?" "The transplant started about 20 minutes ago," James told him, adjusting Michael's IV. "So far, everything's going smoothly according to the surgical team upstairs." Michael closed his eyes in relief. Part of him was now literally inside his son, working to save his life. The biological connection he'd missed for 20 years was being forged in the most fundamental way possible. Time passed strangely in the recovery room. Michael drifted in and out of consciousness. Each time he woke, he asked about Marcus. Each time, the nurses told him everything was proceeding as planned. Around 2 in the afternoon, Larissa came to his room. She looked exhausted but lighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "It's done," she said, sinking into the chair beside his bed. "Marcus's transplant finished about an hour ago. He's back in his room, sleeping. Dr. Okonkwo says everything went exactly as planned." "Can I see him?" Michael tried to sit up and immediately regretted it as pain shot through his hip. "Slow down," Larissa said, gently pushing him back against the pillows. "You just had bone marrow extracted. You need to rest." "I need to see my son," Michael insisted through gritted teeth. Larissa's expression softened. "He's sleeping, Michael. He'll sleep for hours. And you need to heal. You won't be any good to him if you hurt yourself trying to rush recovery." Michael wanted to argue, but his body had other ideas. The anesthesia and pain medication made his limbs feel heavy. His eyelids drooped despite his best efforts to stay awake. "Later," he mumbled. "I'll see him later." "Later," Larissa agreed, pulling a blanket over him. "Rest now. You did good today. You saved our son's life." "Our son." The words echoed in Michael's mind as sleep pulled him under again. Michael woke again around 5 in the evening, feeling more alert. The pain in his hip had settled into a steady ache. A physical therapist came to help him stand and take a few careful steps, making sure he could move without complications. "You're doing great for someone who just had a needle stuck in their hip bone," the therapist said cheerfully. "But take it easy. No running marathons for a few weeks." "Can I see my son?" Michael asked. The therapist smiled. "Let me check with your nurse." 10 minutes later, Michael was in a wheelchair being pushed down the hall by James. Each bump and turn sent twinges of pain through his hip, but Michael didn't care. He needed to see Marcus with his own eyes. They took the elevator to the 8th floor. The oncology ward looked different in the evening light, quieter, calmer. Most of the patients were sleeping or resting with their families. James wheeled Michael to room 847 and knocked softly before opening the door. Marcus was awake, propped up on pillows, looking pale and tired but alert. His face lit up when he saw Michael. "Dad," he said, and the words sent warmth flooding through Michael's chest. "You're okay." "I'm fine," Michael assured him, wheeling closer to the bed. "Just a little sore. How are you feeling?" "Weird," Marcus admitted. "Tired, a little nauseous. But Dr. Okonkwo says that's normal. She says your marrow is already inside me, working." He looked at Michael with wonder. "Part of you is literally keeping me alive right now." Michael reached out and took Marcus's hand carefully, mindful of the IV line. "Part of me has always been keeping you alive. I just didn't know it until now." Larissa sat in the corner, watching them with tears streaming silently down her face. "Does it hurt?" Marcus asked, looking at the wheelchair. "Your hip?" "Not too bad," Michael said honestly. "I've had worse injuries playing basketball. This pain has purpose. This pain means something." Marcus squeezed his hand weakly. "Thank you. I know I keep saying it, but thank you. You didn't have to do this. You could have just walked away when Mom told you about me." "No," Michael said firmly. "I couldn't have. The moment I learned you existed, walking away stopped being an option. You're my son, Marcus. That means something. That means everything." They sat together in comfortable silence as the sun set outside the window, painting the room in warm orange light. Father and son, connected now not just by blood, but by an act of love and sacrifice. Dr. Okonkwo came by for evening rounds, checking Marcus's vitals and reviewing the transplant data on her tablet. "Everything looks excellent," she reported. "The marrow is settling in nicely. Now comes the waiting period. We'll monitor Marcus closely over the next few weeks, watching for signs of engraftment. That's when the new marrow starts producing healthy blood cells. We'll also watch for any signs of rejection, though with such a perfect match, I'm very optimistic." What's the timeline? Michael asked. We should start seeing new cell production within 2 to 4 weeks, Dr. Okonkwo explained. Marcus will need to stay in isolation during that time to protect his weakened immune system. No visitors except immediate family, and everyone must wear protective gear. It's tough, but it's necessary. Marcus's face fell slightly at the mention of isolation, but he nodded understanding. After Dr. Okonkwo left, a nurse came to take Michael back to his own room. He was scheduled to stay overnight for observation. I'll be back first thing tomorrow, Michael promised Marcus. I know you will, Marcus said with quiet confidence. You keep your promises. That simple statement of trust meant more to Michael than any championship trophy ever had. That night, lying in his hospital bed with his hip throbbing, Michael called his daughter Jasmine. How did it go? She asked immediately, worry clear in her voice. It went perfectly, Michael told her. The doctors say he has an excellent chance now. That's amazing, Dad. Jasmine paused. I've been thinking about what you said, about Marcus being my brother. I want to meet him. When he's better, when he's out of isolation, can I visit? Michael's heart swelled. He'd like that. I think you two will get along great. What's he like? Jasmine asked. Michael smiled in the darkness. He's funny, smart, kind. He makes terrible jokes and laughs at his own punchlines. He's brave, braver than anyone I've ever met. And he's fighting so hard to live, Jasmine, fighting so hard. He sounds like you, Jasmine said softly. He's better than me, Michael said honestly. He's the best parts of me and Larissa, with none of our mistakes weighing him down. They talked for a while longer, and Michael could hear his daughter's walls coming down. She was accepting Marcus as family. The others would follow eventually. After hanging up, Michael stared at the ceiling, thinking about the strange path his life had taken. A letter arriving 2 weeks ago. A drive to North Carolina. A son he never knew existed. And now, lying in a hospital bed after giving part of himself to save that son's life. If someone had told him a month ago that this was where he'd be, he never would have believed them. But he wouldn't change it. Not for anything. He had a son named Marcus who told bad jokes and loved basketball and was fighting for his future. And Michael was going to make sure he won that fight. The first week after the transplant was the hardest. Marcus had to stay in strict isolation to protect his compromised immune system. Only doctors, nurses, and immediate family could visit, and everyone had to wear masks, gowns, and gloves. Michael, despite his own recovery, refused to stay away. His hip still ached with every step, but he limped to the hospital each morning and didn't leave until the nurses forced him out at night. He'd sit outside Marcus's isolation room window when he couldn't be inside. Through the glass, he'd watch his son sleep, watch him struggle with nausea from the medications, watch him have good days and terrible days. On the 4th day, Marcus spiked a high fever. Alarms blared, and medical staff rushed into the room. Michael watched helplessly from outside as Dr. Okonkwo and her team worked to stabilize his son. A nurse tried to reassure him. Fevers happen during recovery. It doesn't necessarily mean the transplant failed. But Michael had seen enough in life to know that doesn't necessarily wasn't the same as definitely won't. He stood at that window for 6 hours straight, ignoring the pain in his hip, ignoring his own need for rest, just watching, praying. Larissa joined him around hour 3. They stood side by side, both terrified, both helpless. He's strong, Michael said, more to himself than to her. He's a fighter. He gets that from you, Larissa whispered. Finally, after what felt like forever, the fever broke. Marcus's temperature dropped back to normal range. Dr. Okonkwo came out looking tired but relieved. He pulled through, she said. That was scary, but his body is responding well overall. This was just a bump in the road. Michael nearly collapsed with relief. The days crawled forward. Michael's hip slowly healed, allowing him to walk without limping. Marcus had more good days than bad. The doctors monitored his blood counts constantly, looking for signs that the new marrow was working. On day 10, Dr. Okonkwo came in with news that made everyone cry. The transplant is taking, she announced, unable to hide her smile. His blood work shows new, healthy cells being produced. The bone marrow is doing exactly what we hoped it would do. Marcus, still weak but grinning behind his mask, looked at Michael through the glass window and mouthed the words, "Thank you, Dad." Michael pressed his hand against the glass. Marcus mirrored the gesture from inside. Through protective barriers and medical equipment, father and son connected. By week 3, Marcus was strong enough to leave isolation. He moved to a regular room, still in oncology but without the barriers. Michael could finally touch his son, hug him, sit beside his bed without layers of protective gear between them. The first real hug brought tears to both their eyes. "I've got you," Michael whispered, holding Marcus carefully. "I've got you, and I'm not letting go." "I know," Marcus said into his father's shoulder. "I know you do." The road to full recovery stretched ahead. Marcus had to take anti-rejection medications. He had to be careful about infections. He was weak and tired and had months of rebuilding his strength ahead. But he was alive, getting stronger every single day. Michael rented a larger house in Durham, where Marcus and Larissa could stay once Marcus was discharged. He hired a private nurse to help with care. He learned about medications, side effects, warning signs to watch for. He became, fully and completely, a father. Michael's other children came to visit during week 4. Jasmine arrived first, nervous and uncertain. She was 19 and didn't know what to make of this older brother who'd appeared from nowhere. But Marcus made it easy. Even weak from treatment, he was warm and welcoming. "So you're my sister," he said with a smile. "Mom told me about you. She said you're studying business at Howard." Jasmine nodded, relaxing slightly. "Yeah, I want to run my own company someday." "That's awesome," Marcus said genuinely. "Maybe you can give me advice. I'm terrible with money. I once spent my entire paycheck on basketball shoes." Jasmine laughed despite herself. "What kind of shoes?" "Jordan 11s, Marcus admitted with a sheepish grin. "The Concords." I know. Kind of ironic now." Within an hour, they were talking easily, sharing stories and laughing together. Michael watched from the corner, his heart full. Jeffrey and Marcus Jr., Michael's sons, visited the next day. They were more guarded, more protective of their father. But Marcus won them over too with his genuine interest in their lives and his self-deprecating humor. "Look, I get it," Marcus told them honestly. "This is weird for everyone. I'm not trying to replace you or take anything from you. I just want a chance to know my family. If you're willing to give me that chance, great. If not, I understand." His honesty disarmed them. By the end of the visit, they were all talking basketball strategy and arguing about players. On week 6, Marcus was finally discharged. The doctors were amazed at his recovery. His blood counts were strong, his energy returning, no signs of rejection. "You're not completely out of the woods yet," Dr. Okonkwo warned. "You'll need regular checkups for the next year." "But Marcus, I'm very optimistic. You're doing beautifully." Michael drove Marcus and Larissa to the house he'd rented. It was a beautiful place with a big yard, hardwood floors, and plenty of space. Michael had set up Marcus's room with everything he might need. Comfortable bed, television, books, even a basketball hoop outside for when Marcus was strong enough. "Dad, this is too much," Marcus protested, looking around. "It's not nearly enough," Michael said firmly. "I have 20 years to make up for. Let me do this. Please." Marcus looked at his father for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, thank you." That first night in the house, they ordered Italian food, Marcus's favorite. They sat around the dining table, eating pasta and garlic bread, talking and laughing like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. It was such a simple thing, a family dinner. Michael had eaten in the finest restaurants in the world, attended galas with presidents and celebrities. But this meal, in a rental house with his son and Larissa, was the best of his life. After dinner, as they cleaned up together, Marcus asked quietly, "What happens now? I mean, after I'm fully recovered? Do you go back to Chicago? Do we just see each other on holidays?" Michael stopped washing dishes and turned to face his son. "That depends on what you want. But if I have my way, we figure this out together." "I'm not disappearing, Marcus. You're stuck with me now." Marcus's face lit up with a smile that reached his eyes. "Good, because I'm really enjoying having a dad." "And I'm really enjoying being one," Michael admitted. "For real this time." Not from a distance. Not missing the important moments. Actually being here. Larissa wiped tears from her eyes as she watched them. You two are going to make me cry all over again. That's kind of your specialty lately, Mom, Marcus teased gently. She threw a dish towel at him, and they all laughed. Later that night, after Marcus had gone to bed and Larissa had retired to her room, Michael sat on the back porch under the stars. His phone buzzed with messages. His assistant, his business partners, people wanting pieces of his time and attention. He ignored them all. For 20 years, he'd chased success, built empires, collected accolades. He'd thought that was what mattered. That was what life was about. But sitting here, in a rental house in Durham, knowing his son was sleeping safely upstairs, Michael finally understood what he'd been missing. This was what mattered. Family. Connection. Being there for the people who needed you. He'd found his son. He'd saved his son's life. And now, he was going to be the father Marcus deserved. Even if he was 20 years late, he was here now. And that had to count for something. 3 months after the transplant, Marcus was doing remarkably well. His hair was growing back in thick and dark. His energy had returned to near normal levels. His doctors called him a miracle patient and used words like remarkable recovery and excellent prognosis. Michael had stayed in North Carolina, flying back to Chicago only when absolutely necessary. He'd found something more valuable than any business deal or endorsement contract: time with his son. One Saturday afternoon in January, Michael took Marcus to a local gym. It was the first time since the illness that Marcus had been cleared to play basketball. Nothing intense, the doctors warned. Just light shooting, easy movement. But for Marcus, it was monumental. Michael rented the gym privately. He knew if word got out that Michael Jordan was shooting hoops somewhere, they'd be mobbed within minutes. Marcus took his first shot, a simple free throw. The ball bounced off the rim. "Rust," he said with a grin. "Just a little," Michael agreed, retrieving the ball and passing it back. They shot around together, and Michael watched his son's movements carefully. Marcus was slower than before, his stamina not fully recovered. But the joy on his face was unmistakable. This was what he'd missed, what he'd feared he'd never do again. After 30 minutes, they sat on the bench, both breathing heavily. "I missed this," Marcus said, staring at the basketball in his hands. "Not just the game. I missed feeling like myself, like I had a future." "You do have a future," Michael assured him. "A long one." Marcus turned to look at his father, his expression growing serious. "Can I tell you something? Something I've been thinking about a lot?" "Anything," Michael said. "When I got sick, I was angry, really angry." Marcus's voice was quiet but intense. "I'm 20 years old. I should be in college, hanging out with friends, maybe dating someone, figuring out my life. Instead, I'm in a hospital wondering if I'm going to die. And I thought, this isn't fair. I didn't do anything to deserve this." Michael stayed silent, letting Marcus continue. "But then you showed up," Marcus said. "And I realized something. If I hadn't gotten sick, Mom never would have reached out to you. You and I never would have met. I would have gone my whole life not knowing my father, and you not knowing me." He paused, his eyes glistening. "The sickness gave me you." Michael's throat tightened painfully. "So I'm choosing to be grateful," Marcus continued. "Grateful that I survived, grateful that you were a match, grateful that I have a dad now. Because otherwise, I'll just be bitter forever." "And what's the point of that?" Michael pulled Marcus into a hug, overwhelmed by his son's wisdom and grace. "When did you get so wise?" "Must have inherited it from Mom," Marcus joked, his voice muffled against Michael's shoulder. "Definitely didn't get it from the guy who lost millions gambling on golf?" Michael laughed despite the tears in his eyes. "Fair point." They shot around for another 20 minutes before Marcus's energy flagged. On the drive back to the house, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from Larissa. He read it and frowned. "Mom says she needs to see both of us. Says it's important." Something in his tone made Michael's instincts flare with concern. "Is she okay?" "She says she's fine, but..." Marcus looked worried. "She sounds weird. Can we go now?" They drove to Larissa's house, the small blue one where this journey had begun 4 months ago. She was waiting on the porch, and even from the car, Michael could see she'd been crying. "Mom," Marcus called, hurrying up the walkway. "What's wrong?" Larissa looked between her son and Michael, her expression tortured. She was holding a manila envelope, clutching it like it contained something precious and terrible all at once. "I need to tell you both something," she said, her voice shaking. "I should have told you before, but I was scared. And then everything happened so fast with the transplant, and I kept finding reasons to wait. But you deserve to know. You both deserve to know the truth." Michael climbed the porch steps, his heart beginning to race. "Larissa, what is it?" She took a deep breath. "Michael, when I found out I was pregnant with Marcus, I tried to reach you. I called everyone connected to you, your agent, your manager, anyone who might pass along a message, but I also did something else." "What?" Michael asked. "I wrote you a letter," Larissa said, tears streaming down her face. "A real letter, with everything in it. I told you about the pregnancy. I told you I loved you and missed you and wanted you to be part of our baby's life. I told you I didn't want your money or your fame, I just wanted you to know." Her voice broke. "I sent it certified mail to your agent's office in July 1985. The receipt said it was delivered and signed for." Michael's blood ran cold. "I never got any letter." "I know," Larissa said. "At least, I figured as much when you never responded. I thought maybe you'd gotten it and decided you didn't want anything to do with us. It destroyed me, but I understood. Your career was everything." "I never got it," Michael repeated, his voice rising with anger and confusion. "Larissa, I swear to you, I never saw any letter. If I had, I believe you," she said quickly. "But that's not the shocking part. That's not why I asked you here." She held out the manila envelope with trembling hands. "Last week, I was going through old boxes in my attic. Things from when Marcus was a baby that I've kept stored all these years. And I found this. It was buried in a box of Marcus's baby clothes. I don't even remember putting it there." Michael took the envelope. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a letter. An official-looking letter on professional letterhead. His name was printed at the top in a typeface he vaguely recognized from his early career. He began to read, and the world tilted beneath his feet. "Dear Larissa, I received your letter regarding the pregnancy. I appreciate you reaching out, but I need to be direct with you. I'm not ready to be a father. My career is just beginning, and I can't afford any distractions or complications. I've worked too hard to get where I am to let anything derail my future. I think it's best if we don't contact each other again. You should move forward with your life, and I'll move forward with mine. I wish you well, but I can't be part of this. I can't be part of your child's life. Please don't try to reach me again. My representatives have been instructed to block any further communication from you. I'm sorry, but this is how it has to be. Michael Jordan." Michael stared at the letter, his vision blurring with rage and disbelief. "This isn't my handwriting," he said hoarsely. "And I never wrote this. Larissa, I never wrote this." "I know that now," Larissa sobbed. "But back then I believed it. I was 21 and scared and pregnant and heartbroken. It looked official. It sounded like something a young athlete focused on his career might say. So I believed it. I stopped trying to reach you. I raised Marcus alone because I thought you'd explicitly rejected us." Marcus took the letter from Michael's hands, reading it with growing horror on his face. "Someone intercepted Mom's letter and sent back a fake response?" "It must have been," Michael said through clenched teeth. His hands were balled into fists. "Someone in my agent's office. Someone who thought they were protecting my career by keeping complications away." His voice rose with fury. "Someone who stole 20 years from us." The three of them stood there on the porch, the weight of this betrayal crushing down on them. All this time, Michael had thought Larissa simply hadn't tried hard enough to reach him. Larissa had thought Michael explicitly didn't want them. But the truth was darker and more painful than either had imagined. Someone had deliberately kept them apart. "Do you know who?" Marcus asked quietly, his face pale. Michael's mind raced through possibilities. His first agent, David Falk, had been protective but professional. But Falk had an assistant back then, Gerald Morrison. Gerald had been overzealous about managing Michael's image, about keeping distractions away. "I have suspicions," Michael said, his jaw tight. "My agent's assistant was a guy named Gerald. He was always talking about protecting my focus, keeping me away from anything that might hurt my career, but after 20 years, he shook his head. "I can't prove anything." "It doesn't matter who did it," Larissa said tiredly, sinking into a porch chair. "What's done is done. We can't get those years back. We can't change what happened." "But we can make sure everyone knows the truth," Michael said fiercely. "This wasn't your fault, Larissa. You tried. You did everything you could, and it wasn't my fault. I never knew. I never rejected Marcus." He looked at his son. "Your father never abandoned you. I was kept from you. There's a difference." Marcus stared at the fake letter in his hands, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. "So that's the shocking truth," he said slowly. "We were all victims. Mom was lied to. You were kept in the dark. And I grew up without a father because someone else decided that was what should happen." "The real shock," Larissa whispered, "is that none of this had to happen. If that letter had reached Michael, if someone hadn't intercepted it and sent back a fake response, everything would have been different. You would have grown up with your father, Michael. I wouldn't have struggled alone. Our entire lives were altered by one person's decision to lie. The magnitude of it settled over them like a heavy blanket. One letter, one lie, 20 years of consequences." Michael moved to sit beside Larissa, and Marcus joined them. The three of them sat together on the porch as the January sun began to set, each processing this revelation in their own way. "I'm going to find out who did this," Michael said finally. "I'm going to find out, and I'm going to make sure the real story gets told." "Does it really matter?" Marcus asked. "I mean, we found each other anyway. Isn't that what's important?" Michael looked at his son. This remarkably forgiving young man who'd nearly died and somehow emerged with grace and wisdom intact. "You're right," Michael admitted. "What matters is we're together now, and we're not wasting any more time." Larissa reached out and took both their hands. "I'm sorry," she said again. "I'm so sorry for believing that letter. I'm sorry for not trying harder to get past it. I'm sorry for—" "Stop," Michael interrupted gently. "You were 21 and alone and scared. You had no reason to think it was fake. This isn't on you, Larissa, and it's not on me. It's on whoever wrote that letter." They sat in silence as darkness fell around them. Three people bound together by love, loss, and a lie that had shaped all their lives. But they were together now, and that was what mattered. The discovery of the fake letter changed everything and nothing all at once. Michael hired a private investigator to track down Gerald Morrison, his former agent's assistant. It took 2 weeks, but they found him, retired, living in Florida, completely unaware that his 20-year-old decision was about to catch up with him. Michael flew to Florida alone. He didn't tell Larissa or Marcus where he was going. This was something he needed to do himself. Gerald Morrison lived in a modest condo in Tampa. He was 67 now, gray-haired and slightly stooped. When he opened the door and saw Michael Jordan standing there, his face went pale. "Mr. Jordan," he stammered. What are you doing here?" "You know exactly why I'm here," Michael said, his voice cold and controlled. "Can I come in, or do we need to have this conversation in the hallway?" Gerald stepped aside wordlessly, his hands shaking. The condo was neat and ordinary, golf magazines on the coffee table, photographs of grandchildren on the mantel. Michael felt a surge of anger. This man had grandchildren. He'd lived a full life while stealing that same opportunity from Michael. "It was you, wasn't it?" Michael said without preamble. July 1985. A woman named Larissa Bennett sent a letter to the office saying she was pregnant with my child. You intercepted it and sent back a fake response pretending to be me. Gerald sank onto his couch, his face crumbling. How did you find out? So you admit it, Michael said, his fists clenched at his sides. I was trying to protect you, Gerald said desperately. You were about to become the biggest thing in basketball. This girl, Larissa, she could have destroyed everything. Paternity claims, media scrutiny, people saying you abandoned your responsibilities. It would have ruined your image before your career even started. That wasn't your decision to make. Michael's voice rose despite his efforts to stay calm. You had no right to keep that information from me. You had no right to lie to her. You destroyed lives, Gerald. My son grew up without a father because you decided you knew what was best for my career. I thought I was helping, Gerald insisted weakly. You thought about yourself, Michael interrupted. You thought about keeping your job, about being the loyal assistant who protected the golden boy. You didn't think about me or Larissa or the child. You didn't think about what we might have wanted. Gerald was crying now, tears running down his weathered face. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I've thought about that letter over the years, wondered if I made the right choice. But it was done, and I couldn't take it back. And you became so successful. 6 championships, billions of dollars. I told myself it worked out for the best. My son almost died, Michael said, his voice breaking. 3 months ago, my 20-year-old son that I didn't even know existed was dying of leukemia. I almost lost him before I ever got a chance to meet him. Does that sound like it worked out for the best? Gerald's face went white. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know. Of course you didn't know, Michael said bitterly. Because you made sure I didn't know. You made sure we were all kept in the dark. He took a deep breath, trying to control his rage. I could destroy you for this. I could go to the media, tell them what you did. Your reputation would be ruined. Your family would know what kind of person you really are. Gerald looked up with desperate, hopeful eyes. But you won't. No, Michael said. I won't. Not because you deserve my mercy, but because my son taught me something about forgiveness and moving forward. Marcus told me that holding on to anger just makes you bitter. So I'm not going to destroy you, Gerald. But I am going to make sure the truth comes out. My truth, Larissa's truth, and Marcus's truth. The world is going to know that I didn't abandon my son, that I was deliberately kept from him. Please, Gerald begged. My family should know what you did, Michael finished. But that's between you and them. I'm done here. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. One more thing. That letter you wrote. You signed my name to a lie that shaped 3 people's entire lives. I hope you think about that every single day for whatever time you have left. Michael walked out, leaving Gerald Morrison crying on his couch. The flight back to North Carolina felt longer than usual. Michael stared out the window at the clouds below, processing everything. He'd gotten his answers, but they didn't feel as satisfying as he'd hoped. Knowing who was responsible didn't change the past. It didn't give him back those 20 years. But it did give him something else. The truth. The complete truth that he could share with Marcus and with the world. When Michael arrived back at the house in Durham, both Larissa and Marcus were waiting in the living room. They'd clearly been worried, though neither had called to ask where he'd gone. It was Gerald Morrison, Michael said without preamble. My agent's assistant. He admitted everything. He intercepted Larissa's letter, wrote the fake response, and kept us apart because he thought a pregnancy would damage my career. Larissa closed her eyes, fresh tears sliding down her cheeks. So it's real. Someone really did that to us. He said he was trying to protect me, Michael continued, his voice tight with residual anger. Trying to protect my image, my career. He thought he was doing the right thing. What did you do? Marcus asked quietly. I told him the truth about what his decision cost us, Michael said. I told him you almost died. And I told him I was going to make sure everyone knows what really happened. Marcus stood and walked to his father. Are you okay? The question surprised Michael. After everything, after learning that someone had deliberately stolen his father from him, Marcus was asking if Michael was okay. I don't know, Michael admitted honestly. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm grateful we found each other despite everything. I'm all of it at once. That sounds about right, Marcus said, and he hugged his father tightly. 2 days later, Michael arranged an exclusive interview with a journalist he'd known and trusted for years. He brought Marcus and Larissa with him. They sat together in a private room, and for 90 minutes, they told the complete story. Michael talked about receiving Larissa's letter 4 months ago, about discovering he had a son. Larissa talked about her attempts to reach Michael in 1985, about the fake letter she'd received. Marcus talked about growing up without a father, about his illness, about meeting Michael for the first time in a hospital room. They showed copies of both letters, the real one Larissa had sent, and the fake response. They explained about the transplant, about the perfect match that saved Marcus's life. "I want people to understand," Michael said into the camera, his voice steady and clear. "I didn't abandon my son. I was kept from him. For 20 years, I didn't know he existed because someone else decided what my life should look like. That person stole something precious from all three of us. But we're not telling this story for revenge," Larissa added. "We're telling it because the truth matters. And because we want people to understand that families come in all different forms, even when those forms are complicated." "I'm just grateful," Marcus said simply. "Grateful to be alive. Grateful to know my dad. Grateful that despite everything that went wrong, we found our way to each other." The interview aired 3 days later and exploded across media platforms. It trended worldwide within hours. The response was overwhelming, mostly supportive, with people moved by the story of loss and reunion, of the father and son who'd found each other just in time. Some people were angry on their behalf, demanding to know Gerald Morrison's identity. Michael refused to give it. "That's not what this is about," he told reporters. "This is about moving forward, not destroying someone else." Marcus's story inspired a surge in bone marrow donor registrations. Thousands of people signed up, moved by his battle with leukemia and wanting to help others in similar situations. Support groups for cancer patients reported increased membership and renewed hope. Something beautiful emerged from the pain, a ripple effect of good that spread far beyond their family. 6 months after the transplant, Marcus's doctors declared him in complete remission. The cancer was gone. His body had fully accepted the transplanted marrow. He was healthy, strong, and cleared to return to normal life. Michael threw a celebration party at the Durham house. He invited Marcus's friends from college, his half-siblings, Larissa's family, even some of the nurses and doctors who'd cared for Marcus during his treatment. Dr. Okonkwo came and gave a toast. "I've been practicing oncology for 23 years, she said, raising her glass. "And I've never seen a case quite like Marcus's. Not just the medical miracle of finding a perfect match in a father he'd never met, but the human miracle of a family coming together against impossible odds. Marcus, you're an inspiration. Michael, you're proof that it's never too late to show up for the people you love." Everyone applauded, many with tears in their eyes. Later, as the party wound down and guests began to leave, Marcus pulled Michael aside. "I have something for you," he said, handing Michael a small wrapped box. Michael opened it carefully. Inside was a photograph in a simple frame, the photo booth picture of young Michael and Larissa from their last night together before the draft. But Marcus had done something to it. He'd used photo editing software to insert a third person into the image, himself as a baby, cradled between his parents. "It's not real," Marcus said softly. "Obviously. But I thought maybe this is how it should have been. The three of us together from the start." Michael stared at the image. This impossible, beautiful picture of a family that never was, but somehow now existed anyway. His vision blurred with tears. "It's perfect," he whispered. "We can't change the past," Marcus said. "We can't get back those 20 years. But we have now. We have the future. And I think that has to be enough." Michael pulled his son into a fierce hug. "It's more than enough. You're more than enough. You're everything I didn't know I was missing." Across the yard, Larissa watched them, her hand pressed to her heart. Despite everything, despite the lies and the lost time and the pain, they'd made it here. They'd become a family. Not a traditional family. Not a simple family. But a real family nonetheless. That night, after everyone had gone home and Marcus had gone to bed, Michael sat on the back porch under the stars. His phone buzzed with another message from his Chicago office, but he ignored it. He thought about the letter that had arrived 4 months ago. Cream-colored envelope. Familiar handwriting, a plea for help. He thought about the drive to North Carolina, the shock of discovering he had a son, the terror of nearly losing him. He thought about Gerald Morrison and the fake letter that had changed everything. About 20 years of missed moments that could never be recovered. But mostly he thought about Marcus, about his son's terrible jokes and infectious laugh, about the way he made everyone around him feel valued and heard, about his courage in facing death and his grace in choosing forgiveness. Michael had won 6 championships, earned billions of dollars, and achieved fame that most people only dream about. He'd thought those things defined him, made his life meaningful, but he'd been wrong. This, sitting on a porch in North Carolina, knowing his son was sleeping safely upstairs, this was what made life meaningful. Family, connection, love that showed up even when it was 20 years late. Michael Jordan had visited his ex after 20 years, and what he'd found had shocked everyone, including himself. He'd found a son he never knew existed. He'd found a second chance at fatherhood. He'd found the missing piece of his life that no championship could ever replace. And in finding Marcus, Michael had finally found himself. The shocking truth wasn't just about the intercepted letter or the decades of separation. The shocking truth was simpler and more profound than that. It's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. It's never too late to show up for the people who need you. And it's never too late to build a family, even when that family comes together in the most unexpected, impossible, beautiful way. Michael looked up at the stars and smiled. He'd missed 20 years, but he had the rest of his life to make up for it. And that was exactly what he intended to do. Marcus is now thriving, playing basketball again, and building memories with his father every single day. Michael learned that being a dad means more than any championship ever could. Their story shows us that it's never too late for second chances, and that love can heal even 20 years of lost time. Where are you listening from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. We love hearing from you. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us spread more stories of hope, kindness, and never giving up. And hey, don't go anywhere yet. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible true story that will move you. Thanks for being part of our family. See you in the next one.